part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your beleaguered host, Damon Royster, and we did it. We did it. This plan that I came up with that no one said I couldn't do is finally coming to a close. We have watched every single X-Men movie in the Summer of X, and we have reached the end. The last X-Men movie that they ever made, 2019's own X-Men Dark Phoenix, aka Where'd You Go, Jean Grey? This has been a harrowing summer. Thank you all for joining me on this ride. And of course, I'm giving a shout out to Ramil Chan, Isaac Snyder, and Devin Henderson, three people who I have been told listen to this podcast. Have they listened to all of these? I'm going to assume so for my mental health. All right. We're talking all about the Dark Phoenix saga, as some of us may know it as. And I couldn't think of anyone else I would rather do this podcast with than my Dark Phoenix herself. She's down the road. She's processing that compliment. She is down the road from me. Pronouns are he, him, his, but colloquially, we'll say she. This guest is just going to be two of us, just one guest today. My guest is a filmmaker. They are the producer of a short film called Queerly Departed, which is making its premiere at the Honolulu Rainbow Festival virtually. And it will also have an in-person premiere in Palm Springs and Chicago. So be on the lookout for Queerly Departed. Please welcome to your ears, back from Elektra fame, Dave Berenato. How are you doing?
Hello. Great. I've risen from the ashes. I do have one small correction. We didn't get the Queerly Departed handle, so the film title is Queerfully Departed for Queerfully Departed.
Queerfully Departed. Wow. I feel jumped, listeners. I did fully.
You got to stand up for yourself in this life. That's my new thing.
Your new thing. Cool.
Starting today.
So Dave's here. Dave, how have you been since Elektra? The listeners have not. I've talked to you, but how have you been since watching Elektra?
I've seen so few movies since Elektra. I've just been sitting and ruminating with that film, and maybe I just saw like Barbie, and that's it. Actually, last night I saw Red, White, and Royal Blue, so I'll do a tie-in later.
We have to talk. You were texting me about it. Okay, we have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Dave, we have not on mic talked about your experience with X-Men. So what is your journey with X-Men movies? Because you've been watching them, the prequels. Yes. Yes.
I have been watching along. I saw First Class back in the day. Haven't seen it in a while, but decided to rewatch Days of Future Past, which I wasn't sure if it was a rewatch. And then I checked my letterbox and it was in fact a rewatch. Saw Apocalypse for the first time and then saw Dark Phoenix. So all within a week saw these three.
Cool. And overall the prequels, do you think they are of the same caliber as the original trilogy?
No, they feel I really
Producer
like the
Michael
original
agrees.
trilogy, and I'm here to defend the original trilogy. I think it has a bit more of a Marvel machine to it, and I like that about it. And what's funny is I assumed that I'd seen all three because I remember seeing The Last Stand in theaters, and I am coming to find out that maybe I didn't see X2, but who knows? They were on cable a lot, I feel like, when we were growing up.
You said that, but I think you did see X2 because you've talked to me about the scene where Logan hands the warm bottle of root beer to Bobby and he blows into it and it makes it cold. You talked
probably
about
just saw that on YouTube X-Men gay moments kind of thing. Those YouTube videos that make shipping videos. That's probably where I've seen it more.
Yeah, that's how I came out, was those videos. I know about those videos, Dave.
Or we're not for people who edit that stuff in Windows Movie Maker.
Mm-hmm. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the queen herself, the Dark Phoenix. May she rise. If you could, what is your overall general thought of this movie? We're going to go through it. We're going to, as we were told, tear it apart. We were instructed to do. And don't worry, we will. But Dave, we watched it together. That was 2 days ago. I have not talked to you since. How have you felt?
It's giving haphazard. It's giving rewrites. It's giving the pandemic is a mere months away. Like COVID is like about to be birthed.
Hollywood knew.
Yeah, there's something in the air in this movie, and it doesn't exactly fall all where it's supposed to fall.
Fair, very fair. I'm gonna say I was explaining this to producer Michael before we recorded. I think it's bad. Wait. Is that that line?
That's the iconic Jennifer Lawrence line, yeah.
I forgot. Oh my god. So producer
Right
Michael
in one of the first scenes.
put into the chat ex women. And I do think that's the correct pronunciation, women. Mystique wants to let you know that, consider the ex women. But I do rank Dark Phoenix slightly above X-Men Apocalypse. Only because they're not pretending to have fun in Dark Phoenix. And I respect that. I respect their integrity to make a slog of a film. And I've always respected that. Like, don't lie to me. If you're grim, then just be grim.
Apocalypse has the scene where they break Magneto out of the jail with the Quicksilver guy. That's Apocalypse.
That's Days of Future Past, but they do have a Quicksilver scene where he rescues all the kids from the school being blown up.
That's Dark Phoenix. Yeah.
Well, no, that's Apocalypse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no Quicksilver scene in Phoenix. Like, there's no fun Quicksilver scene in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay.
So get that out of your head.
Yeah, they're all separating now in my brain.
Well, I think what'll help. Let's go into this movie. We start, of course, in the most cheerful ways possible. A car crash. So a young Jean Grey is like, "Oh my gosh, I want to listen to the music I want to listen to." Come to find out, we find out this later. She puts her mom to sleep, and the car crashes. So we're already off to the races in a very upbeat place, I would say.
Yeah, it's giving women's wrongs.
Explain in what way?
Just like, when you have that urge when you're driving to just like flail into the other lane. That's little baby Dark Phoenix for you.
Little baby Dark Phoenix, which, okay, right off the bat, I want to question this. Is the idea that the Phoenix was put into her, or that it was already there and like the space cloud awoken something within her?
She definitely has some, like, I would say mental, like, trauma stuff that even as we're going into that car scene, she's like, "Oh, I'm having trouble controlling it." Her parents are scared, and they've like, been through everything that they've been through with her. So it feels like it was a tough childhood.
Yeah,
for Jean Grey.
Absolutely, for Jean Grey. But luckily, she meets Professor Xavier, your favorite character.
Shock? No, I don't think so. I'll have to think about that.
Well, how do you feel about James McAvoy's performance of Charles Xavier?
It really oscillates. He is a script reader. He'll adjust based on the script. I think that is his, like, Professor Xavier getting older and learning new things. But each one feels so aggressively different. And we talked about in Days of Future Past when he's like this drug kind of dude where he's like, "I gotta get my fix," and he like does his little like syringe moment. Yeah. Into this where he's like, "I'm all knowing. I gotta fix the children. I gotta help them."
Yeah, I read my notes. The hubris of Charles Xavier is off the charts in this movie. It's very strange. Like, also, it's weird to do a fourth movie. It's weird to end on 4. I'm just gonna say that. 4 is such a weird number franchise wise. But Hunger Games, Twilight.
No, they split the last Twilight, I think.
Okay.
Right?
There's still a 4th movie.
And they didn't stop there.
Sorry, everybody.
It's so funny the way the franchise is set up to each be a decade. And then they're just like, let's bring back the same actors every time for the original like 3.
That really bothers you. That really bothers you, I'm noticing.
You know what? They're mutants. I forgive them. Just like give them some, I don't know, fun outfits.
That is true. We commented to this when we were watching. This is the one movie that does not play with the decade at all. We get one little thing that says it's 1992 at the beginning, and if you miss it, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, absolutely, to its detriment. They really dropped the ball there.
Like, could you imagine there was a scene? Let me pitch a scene for this Dark Phoenix to make it fun.
Yeah.
The Phoenix is taken over. She attacks her schoolmates and she leaves. And then she goes to a club and it's Salt and Peppa playing Push It. Like, bow, 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 like, ooh, baby, babe. Like, just that, like, and Jean's walking around. She's like, what is this power inside of me? I don't know.
It's such a bummer because we don't really have the 90s period piece yet. Like, we got like all this 80s stuff. We got the Stranger Things. We got so much Wonder Woman 1984. I can't think of like a great 90s period piece.
And it's definitely not this one. So
no, definitely not.
We begin with an issue in space. Well, I mean, we begin with the car crash, but then an issue in space. NASA is launching a launch and something goes wrong. And the president, played by James Darcy, Broadway legend.
Brian Darcy James, yeah.
Brian Darcy James. I did this before. Brian Darcy James.
I think it's Brian Darcy James. Yeah.
Of
Shrek fame.
Of course. What else?
Shrek the musical.
Oh, yes, of course. He's the president, the unnamed president who's only in one scene. He grabs the X phone. I think the phone by him literally has an X on it. Calls Professor Xavier and he's like, oh my gosh, there's a trouble in space. We need the X-Men. And we go to space. Talk to me about, Dave, you're gay. Talking about the outfits the X-Men are wearing. That's not homophobic. I'm also gay, so I can say that.
They're boring. It actually really, whenever I see them, it reminds me that like when Jennifer Lawrence talks about how it took her like 8 hours to get into this makeup, they're like, what if we just did her hands and face? What if we just did Elphaba makeup on her? Like it's to save money. It's to save time. The outfits didn't have a second thought in them.
Yeah. We'll get to J-Law soon, but like the outfits, it's just like a very exaggerated X and it's stretched so far across their chest that it's like, is it even an X?
Right. It's more like a vest. more of a safety. It's giving me traffic controllers at an airport, waving people. But like
on the tarmac. Okay, Mystique's makeup is different. It's completely different. I've watched 8 X-Men movies and Mystique has never looked this light. She looks sick. Like compared to in this one, compared to her deep navy blue, deep blue sea ocean blue that she usually looks. This is giving me like robin's egg blue, and her scales are in a different place than they were, and the hair is fully just a wig.
Do you think that's her doing that? That she's like, today I want to wear my scales on this side.
That's part of her mutability. It's like, I want my scales up today. Yeah. I want them on my forehead, none on my cheeks. And you like this look, I believe. You like this new Mystique look.
I actually think it looks the least affronting in terms of like paint. I think the First Class one is the best. And I'm trying to remember First Class and maybe... No, I think Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, they really like screw it up because it looks so wet. It looks so creepy. She looks so uncomfortable. And this one, I feel like at least it's like dry. And that's what I like about it. But color wise, it's off. Yeah.
Well, her color may be off, but Mystique is on because she is the leader of the X-Men. And she's like barking out orders. And she's like, I'm going to girl boss boots the house down. Let's get in this fucking spaceship. Nightcrawler's like, wait. We're going into space? And she's like, yes, bitch.
Yes, we are. And they're like, can this ship even go in space? And they're like, we'll find out.
And it's literally like, don't worry about it. For the plot to make sense, we have to be up there because Jean needs to get possessed.
Nicholas Hoult can build a spacecraft in 1992. I trust him.
I'm talking about that man. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the scene, the whiskey scene with Nicholas Hoult.
I've seen whiskey used in 8 different pieces of media the past week. It's such a device.
Truly. And you were noticing there's a lot of whiskey drinks taken in this movie.
Because as a screenwriter, it feels very like...
Here we go.
Lowest common denominator of how can I establish that there is a man suffering? You know what I mean? Like people are at their rock bottom when they are pouring a glass of neat whiskey into a little glass and like resting it down.
I don't think we should blame the screenwriter. I think it's purely a director's choice. Or
in this one, they're the same.
Oh, is that true?
We have a writer-director on our hands here. Yeah.
Damn.
Because some changes at whatever studio this was.
Yeah, because Bryan Singer got arrested.
You say
it. Take him down. All right. So we're in space. Much like the movie, we're just going to be in space. So the astronauts are like, their ships are breaking down. Nightcrawler teleports people in. Quicksilver gets them out. And then Jean's like, I'll put the ship back together. But then, of course, she gets absolutely blasted by the Phoenix Force.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Berenato, producer Michael did some research on you, and you apparently are a astrophysicist, which is brilliant. So can you explain to me, can you explain to the listeners the science of the Phoenix Cloud? What's happening here?
So when the Big Bang happened, a lot of dust
Back
particles, a lot of dust particles were basically just like shot out into the universe, and they coalesced into what we know today as galaxies and stars and planets. And some of them are just clouds. They're still clouds. They're maybe nebula, some of them. This maybe one I feel nebula. Like is something a little more sinister. It's got like an energy to it. It maybe has abilities in the way that mutants have abilities. And I think it sought out Jean Grey, is my theory, as someone who's never read a comic book, but I think I found her. Not
a single one. You haven't read one single comic book.
No.
Never passed your eyes.
Comic virgin.
Wild.
But I want to say something about the spaceship, because the human aspect of like being in 1992, seeing the Endeavour go up as an astrophysicist myself, seeing the Endeavour go up, like a real spaceship that NASA actually had, and then just like explode in space felt very triggering, because we're not that far after the Challenger explosion in this film. And I think it's weird that they're like, let's just, put this in the script, unless that is from the comic. I don't know. But I did not like seeing that. They're like, kill all these people.
I don't know if it happened in the comic. I did rewatch all the Dark Phoenix episodes of the X-Men animated series that are on Disney Plus. Surprisingly effective.
Research.
I did my research for this one. And it seems to be, when it comes to like comics, the cartoon and the movies, it's not always a one-to-one. Like, I don't know if it was this specific reason the X-Men went into space in the cartoon series or the comics, but it's basically to just get them into space. And
very sadly, Fantastic Four. Reminded me of Fantastic Four, that opening scene.
Oh yeah. And maybe that's like the only 90s shout out is the Challenger explosion. That's the only.
I think that was the late 80s. But I just wish it was like the Endeavour went up, it got stuck, and the X-Men had to bring it back. Like the explosion of it all felt too much.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a full explosion. And okay.
Those astronauts in space floating.
Right.
Jean Grey floating.
Yeah, floating. And clearly, and we see like the cloud fully envelops her, right?
We get the kind of like Harry Potter styling of like her face is cracking. It's like light is coming out of her body. That's the choice that they made aesthetically.
Are you referring to Tom Riddle from the Chamber of Secrets?
Both, I guess, and Harry, the way the scars glow, like kind of like the light is within the sort of design choice.
Yes, Dave is a Harry Potter freak. So
I want on the record that I'm not defending Harry Potter.
Okay. Well, you fully have a signed poster from J.K. Rowling behind you, but okay. So we're seeing Jean get enveloped by this cloud. Like, I just can't believe, like, and they come back to Earth and she's like, I'm fine, great. Like, clearly she's not. Like, I don't know. She needed to be in observation for like a month.
Yeah,
like
that's very true. Like, if a piece of dust comes into a spaceship, like it's quarantined at the Smithsonian for 10 years. Like, what do they say? He's like, just run the standard tests, and they do the standard tests, and they're like, it's bad, and then they let her go.
Yeah. Professor X gets a talking to from Mystique about this, and Dave, do you want to reenact the scene that they have where we get the X-Women line?
Yes.
Do you think we can do it? Yeah. Who do you feel most closer to? I can go either way.
So Charles, I feel like Xavier starts and he says, like, if I could save even one human, I would.
And then do you want me to be Mystique?
Sure, yeah.
One human? Is that what you want? Is that all you care about? We're mutants, Charles. Okay. Also, X-Man. It should be X-Woman. Women do most of the work around here. I'm out of here. Scene.
I had no idea Natasha Lyonne played this role. But it's very like, I love that she is the moral center now because we always got her in between this Magneto Professor X dichotomy. And
Yeah.
she doesn't want to kill people, but she wants mutants to have rights, right?
Yeah.
So Charles, his methodology is let's just make the mutants like, you know, on call to save any human at any time, whatever the risk is. And Jennifer Lawrence is very, well, if I'm going to risk a mutant's life, like it better be worth it. Or she doesn't want to risk any of their lives really, because she sees them as more important because that's her community. And he's always straddling like, how can I be perceived as more human?
Yeah. There is this like unresolved thread of assimilation going on that I find very, very interesting. If the movie found it interesting, I think it would have been cool, of like this idea of like, are we just the mascots for humanity, you know? A conversation
which is why they frame it against these like
Drag Race.
made what
the conversation RuPaul should be having about Drag Race, but
oh yeah, I guess that they always frame it, I don't know when the comic started, but against these like major civil rights movements of the late 20th century, like
yeah,
that's in the background of X-Men lore.
It is, but I don't know if the comic, because it started in the 60s. I don't know if I think they were just like, oh, persecuted people. I don't know if they were going that extra step of like, well, how do the persecuted people feel once they start getting that popularity, once they are liked? Yeah. Does that mean that they've won, or are they just like the cute, cuddly, safe option now? A deep question that X-Men did not want to get into, because
definitely not in this one. Just in that one conversation, I think, that where Jennifer Lawrence gets to chew a little scenery.
But the movie wanted to talk about a different kind of eating, Jessica Chastain's dinner party. Can you walk me through? So watching this with you, I couldn't help but overhear a audible gasp when you saw Jessica Chastain. So can you walk me through your thought process when you were taking her in this movie?
I think, unfortunately, the character that I met in that first shot was someone I immediately fell in love with. And I've seen Jessica Chastain as blonde before. I said many times while watching that I wish they had kept her red hair. But yes, she is the kind of woman, I'm assuming she's drinking white wine in this scene, that I would like immediately be best friends with and fall in love with, because she's having a dinner party at her lakefront house. And she's like, let me just, what does she say? Step outside. I'm going to like touch grass. I don't know. I love her.
Well, I think she hears something and she's like, let me check it out.
Even hotter. She's like, I'm going to go investigate.
Like, what is that noise?
She gets that.
We don't even get her character, the real woman's name. She gets killed by this alien. And oh my gosh.
A millisecond.
Yes. It's a
luckily we don't see it.
Yes. She gets replaced by a shape-shifting alien race. The races of aliens called Dabari, which just like DeBarge, Rhythm of the Night. So their whole deal is they want the Phoenix Force, correct?
Yeah, they were. We find out that they were watching it from space, and they saw it go into Jean Grey, and they're like, "We need to find this girl."
It's like, we need that bitch.
But so I want to know for sure, once and for all, and I have to go back. I think when Jessica Chastain came back and was an alien, they had dyed her eyebrows lighter because it gives her a more cold, dead look. And I think the Jessica Chastain character that I met in the scene, the immediate shot prior, was a lively, fun blonde woman. And now she's replaced by this like empty vessel woman.
I think they did nothing new with her makeup. I think
they shot it 8 weeks later.
I'm going to tell you this. Your friend, the one who you want to have a dinner party with, had those bleached eyebrows. And they were like, this woman will look either fabulous enough to have lakefront dinner parties or strange enough to be a shapeshifting alien coming after a young adult girl.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. She could do both. Could do both.
She could do both. So they're on the hunt for Jean. And meanwhile, we cut to a teen rager. This is my favorite scene when the young adults, based upon what we're going to do later, the young adults, they are having a little party in the woods.
Yeah. Very heart stopper. I just watched a Teen Rager episode.
Oh God, I'm going to watch it soon. Shout out to one of my favorite X-Men, Dazzler. Finally get to see Dazzler in the movie, but she's just kind of like, she was the one who's like just shooting lights off in the air.
Talk to me about her power. Is it singing?
She can make light and like shoot lasers based upon sound. So when she sings, she can turn sound into light. which is why which is why her
disco ball?
yeah, like a disco ball, and by day she's a pop star and she has like her own record label, or she has like an album.
Okay, that should have been the movie. That should have been the movie.
Okay, remind me to give you. I just read this comic book called The Exterminators, where Dazzler breaks up with her boyfriend, who turns out to be a vampire, and it's great. I think that's a good first comic for you.
Yeah.
So the girls are girling, they're having fun, they're like, "Woo, we just went to space!" Like the
Red
school
Solo
is
cups abound.
yes, because when your teachers at your prep school go into space and save the world, you throw a rager in the woods.
And the teachers show up.
And and you love your teachers because your teachers are also superheroes. So
they're also X-Men.
It's a different world.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s. And I think here's where we get a little scary. This is where Jean pops off for the first time. This is where she's like, leave me alone or get out of my head or something. And she like, what does she do? She like makes like a sonic boom and everyone falls over.
She shouts and everyone flies away. Yeah. That's her go-to.
At this point in the film, Dave, how are you dealing with the Phoenix Force? Are you excited? Are you annoyed?
Annoyed is a good word. We know that this woman has been practicing some kind of, I don't want to say mindfulness, but like some kind of emotional behavioral therapy sort of whatever to like control the power. But I think, in going with the idea that your mutation is something you have to learn to live with, she never really gets there. I guess that's why everyone's so afraid of her. But like, she's just always like, oh, if I shout, I'm going to do something crazy. And that's her whole characteristic.
It's like, don't make me shout. Because like when she shouts, she loses control.
Right.
And I think here's where, and then they like take her to the basement to try and work on her. And then she she escapes, right? And then goes off to her family home. No,
she wakes up. I assumed she woke up in her and Scott's apartment that they were in. She's in the bed and she's like, did I hurt anyone? It's giving me after an espresso martini. Like, what happened? Not that I hurt anyone. Sorry, I didn't want to put that in there, but
it's you after an espresso martini, and then when someone tries to tell you the rules of brunch,
yeah, and then they try to not play Beyonce at the function.
And I do want to correct you. It's not an apartment. They live at the school. They don't have an apartment.
That's true. Why did I think they're in some like upstate New York apartment together?
Because you thought they were adults, and not the beholden acolytes of Professor X.
Exactly. Teachers, they teach.
Which this is something I wanted to point out in the beginning of like, there's that scene when Professor X finds Jean and he has the whole pen thing, like, this is a gift and you can do whatever you want with it. And it's kind of fucked up that he does that, because basically what he's saying, like in that metaphor, he's like, I am God giving you this gift, like me, Professor X, like I will, I'm giving you the gift. And also like, Jean as a young girl is like, I'm pretty dangerous. I don't know. And he's like, I'm going to break things. And he's like, I can fix anything you break. And
seconds after finding out that her parents are dead, literally, like not even 2 sentences later.
Or so we thought they were dead.
Twist.
Does that happen?
Yep. She escaped. She talks to Scott. He's like, oh, just promise me you'll come back to me. And she's like, I'll always come back to you.
Leave this one-eyed man? Never. You and me.
He's not worried about her health.
No.
He didn't see the results of the Nicholas Hoult tests.
Oh my God. We're going to talk about Nicholas Hoult. Don't worry. Then I hate that character. This is where
flies off. She goes back to her dad.
Her dad's alive. Turns out he didn't want her because he's like, you're scary. I don't want scary children. I forget.
And she's like, don't make me mad. We'll lose control.
I'm going to lose control. You're making me mad, Dad.
Yeah.
I forget. Does she kill him or do the X-Men show up?
No, she kind of like tosses him. And then she hears the spaceship coming, the ship.
Yes.
And so she's like, the dad goes, are you doing that? And she's like, no. And she steps out the front door and it's the X-Men.
It's the X-Men. And we're going to have to leave it. The X-Women leading the charge. And we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger right there because we have to take a break. And we need to, what's that word? Process. We need to process the death of a beloved character. Because not everybody makes it out of this franchise alive. So we're going to take a break. Dave, are you going to stick around for the second half of the episode?
I'm undecided. Yeah, I'll be here.
No,
I'll have to take down my side J.K. Rowling poster, I guess, that I have.
Actually insane that you kept it up. So when we come back, we're going to see where Dave's at with that, talk about the death of a beloved character, and of course get to that Nicholas Hoult scene, and with all the whiskey you can drink. It's Dark Phoenix, baby, and it's only going to get darker. We'll be right back.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
Welcome, everyone, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, and I am inviting you to listen and subscribe to this Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. On Podcast 616, we gather some of today's greatest comedians, writers, and actors to dive deep into all things Marvel, like comic book history and lore, all the interconnected superhero storylines, and of course, who's hot and who's not in the MCU. Honestly, why aren't you listening right now? You have the power to listen to Podcast 616. And as we always say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. Listen and subscribe to Podcast 616 wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of Producing While Asian. Join us in Season 2 for more conversations with actors, artists, producers, and more from Broadway, Hollywood, and beyond, every other Wednesday on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we're back. You know, Dave Berenato, now that you've taken down the J.K. Rowling poster and you put up your Mystique poster, I'm realizing you were a huge Mystique fan. How did you feel? Your face. I'm sorry that I laughed in your face when Mystique died, but it was so funny how shocked you were. I guess I was shocked too. I was so surprised you had not heard of this. How did you feel losing Mystique?
It came totally out of left field. I had no idea that this happened, for real. I personally, God, a scene where a character gets to like be impaled and then have like a last beautiful breath. That, I mean, who wouldn't want that? Come on.
Who wouldn't want that?
It was.
Who wouldn't want that?
Who would want that? An impaling scene, and then you get to say one last line. That's like top level.
It's the definition of slay.
Yeah, it's the definition of slay.
To be slain and to slay.
The original X-Woman. Really though, I mean, we don't know anyone older than her.
I mean, I guess, yeah, she's the OG X-Woman. I mean, I just remember hearing that Jennifer Lawrence didn't want to be in this movie, and she was like, "What's the minimum amount of time I can be on screen?" And I'll do that.
I wanted to find receipts of that because I think that's a hilarious like tidbit of information.
I mean, I can't imagine anyone really wanted to be in this movie for too much longer.
True. I don't know. I saw something that said Sophie Turner was signed on to the next one.
I bet she was. I'm going to say this about Sophie Turner. That girl's got nothing but time. The shit she does, I'm like, she must have all the time in the world. And she's
in every Jonas Brothers music video.
And also, I don't know. I don't think British people, at that point, I don't know if she had yet learned to recognize American trash. I think she was just kind of like, oh, it must all be.
She read the script.
Yeah.
She read the script, yeah. I was going to say, I looked it up, and this came out literally like 2 weeks after the Game of Thrones finale. So like, what a tough like month for her to the backlash of the Game of Thrones finale right into this.
That was a rough year for her.
Yeah. I mean, she's getting those checks. I love women getting checks.
Me too. I've never said I didn't, for the record.
Jennifer Lawrence got that check. I mean, even to say I don't want to do this movie and then to do it a little bit, like
that's a check.
Yeah. According to SAG rules.
So she dies, and then I don't know. Maybe I'm a masochist. I love when superhero shit deals with death and there's like superhero funerals. This gothic
in the rain.
in the rain.
Umbrellas.
Oh
Well, okay, first we have to say Nicholas Hoult runs up to her and she says with her like, lungs filled with blood, I love you. And he goes, what? I'm like, honey, what do you think she said?
Do you think it was like for clarity or like me? What?
Yeah, you're right.
Me?
He's like,
do you want me to get Magneto?
I'm not Magneto. You can't see it.
I'm fully blue.
Yeah.
Do you mean Magneto, the hottest man in this movie? Surely you mean Magneto.
Yeah.
So then we get the funeral scene. Everyone's sad.
My black umbrella. Every Spider-Man movie has like a black umbrella funeral in the rain.
Even when it's not raining, they would have black umbrellas in Spider-Man.
For the heat.
Is what?
For the heat.
For the heat. Okay.
So they come back in and all the children are just sitting there on the stairs.
Jean did it. Here's where this is again why I pose that question of like, is the Phoenix Force controlling Jean or isn't Jean doing it herself? I feel like, I don't know, if I saw my friend succumbed by a dark space cloud and then a few days later she slams my other friend into a piece of wood, I'm like, that's probably that space cloud. She's not good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just didn't buy Nicholas Holt's character Beast. Like, I swear revenge. She killed my shape-shifting girlfriend.
My girlfriend of 45 years. Yeah.
We've had that pact that if we weren't married by the time we were in our 70s, that we would marry each other.
Love that.
The sexual tension has been boiling since the 60s, and now it's
since the first class. The very first class.
I hate how she's like, we're the last members of the first class. When Mystique says we're the last members of the first class, I'm like, girl, you left for 2 movies. For 2.5 movies, you weren't really here. Like, you're a dropout.
Her allegiance to the first class, I think, is even more so because in Days of Future Past, when they're like, we've been testing on mutants, she was there. Like, that girl with the wings, I feel like was in first class.
The original Angel, yeah, Zoe Kravitz.
That was Zoe Kravitz.
It was Zoe Kravitz, yeah.
Oh my gosh, love that. Didn't rewatch that one, but in Days of Future Past, they have the pictures of them testing on them, and it's really gross. And like she was probably out there trying to save those people when Charles was doing his little drug infusions.
Can't believe it. Wow. Okay, we got a real Mystique stand on the call today. Yeah, I forgot
the poster.
Yeah. There's so many posters of her behind you. Collage, I would say. Dave Berenato, wink, 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 fan of whiskey. Inside joke between us. Can you talk to me about this whiskey scene?
And I'm a victim of this because I've fully written, if you want a woman to be really cool in a screenplay, like give her a glass of whiskey. She walks up to a bar, she orders a glass of whiskey, and the bartender's like, do you want it neat or on the rocks? And she's like, neat. She wants to taste it, Yeah. Like, but when I see a man drink whiskey, I feel the opposite. There's a very double standard for me because I don't respect men. But
sorry,
2 men like walk into a kitchen that I'm assuming they share, and one of them is teary-eyed holding a glass of just whiskey, and the other one pours himself a glass. I'm like, okay, we get it. We're writing a movie. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely.
Men are sad.
Men be sad. And that's why the whiskey, because the whiskey is like, I'm going to bury my feelings with hard liquor.
Yeah. And they use it in red, white, and royal blue too. Same thing.
Okay. We can't, don't take me. That's an offline conversation that we will have, but
this is the next episode after X-Men.
Really surprised by my 3 listeners with that. Okay. So they're sad. And then we go, I think this is really cool as a X-Men fan and a nerd. Dave, we go to Genosha. Can you believe they did Genosha? We get Genosha, which they don't actually name drop, I don't think, in the movie, but as a fan.
And reminds me of Genovia.
Yes.
Which came first? I guess Genosha came first.
Genosha surely came first before Genovia.
The Princess Diaries.
Yeah, I would love for you, as we go on, see if you could find any crossover between Princess Diaries and X-Men Dark Phoenix. I guess Jessica Chastain is Julie Andrews and Sophie Turner is Anne Hathaway. I did it for you. So Genosha is the island nation founded by Magneto that is exclusively for mutants only. You can only live there if you're a mutant. I think in this movie version, because of before we recorded, so I've seen the last bit of X-Men Apocalypse, the last 20 minutes. I had it on just to refresh my mind on it, and I'd forgotten that Magneto was considered a hero for helping defeat Apocalypse. So I guess the government gave him his own island, even though he just kind of was a hero for like 2 minutes because he fully was working with Apocalypse.
Okay. My interpretation was that he just found a little island in international waters. It was like, here.
Well, no, because later the soldiers come. They're
It's
like,
a gift,
we know we're not supposed to be here, but where's this chick?
Very America to be like, we should, come to this island.
We're going to come anyway. So Jean Grey in the most,
Jean Grey way.
The X-Men are very queer coded, and I always look at this as a big metaphor for like the idea of chosen family and like the hate they get from humans, but also gays are messy, and this is the messiest queer shit I've ever seen. I'm gonna kill this man's ex-lover, and then I'm gonna show up at his house and be like, "Can you help me?"
With the blood on her shirt.
With the blood, take a shower, Jean. Oh my god, rob a Gap, like. Why
telekinesis the blood off? We do cut to a shot of her in an alley scrubbing the shirt with her jacket. And I'm like, first of all, telekinesis the blood out.
Yeah. Like when she finally does try to wipe the blood off, it's the worst way of like, I'll just use the rain and I'll sit in
my leather jacket.
Oh my God.
My leather petticoat or whatever it is.
So she goes to Genosha looking for asylum. And I guess she's like, you're a crazy mutant killer. And I'm just like, you help me.
Mm-hmm.
Which
you loved Charles at one point.
Remember that? Remember when they were boyfriends? The last scene. We'll talk about the last scene. Oh my God.
Okay.
The horniest scene. And, but I don't want to get like too inside baseball with this. This is bad. This is also bad screenwriting and bad movie making because they're really leaning on me as an X-Men fan, knowing that, of course, Jean would know Magneto. They have a huge history. But if you're new to this, they haven't really not even in the original movies did these characters ever really interact. I think in X-Men Apocalypse, they just kind of look at each other when they're rebuilding the school.
Well, okay, so they're both shooting at Apocalypse in that last scene, and she does the like full Phoenix. And so Magneto sees her and is probably like, that's one powerful girl.
Right. It's a lot of looking at each other, but not a lot of like talking to each other.
Definitely
and,
not.
Character development and building relationships. What a screenwriter should do.
Yeah. It's giving like, I would say to take the queer metaphor, like it's giving like, this is that old gay that I know from history.
Yes.
So they have, the young mutants, I think, have a context for who Charles, Magneto, and Mystique are because of his world history.
Yes, I agree. But in the fourth sequel of a prequel, they should have met by now. They should have had some basis for something.
Yeah.
It's just such a lot of assumed, like, they know each other.
She goes into Professor X's head and sees all their sexual tension.
Yeah, like, a lot of photos of you and Magneto on the beach. What's
in Fire Island.
Oh, I was thinking of Cuba when he got shot, but yes, also in Fire Island. Yeah. So she's like, help me, save me, whatever. But then the military shows up and she escapes.
She drags a helicopter down.
Oh, yeah.
And he pushes it, he flings it away.
Yeah, there's a nice push and pull. I think now is when, after this, she meets Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, she goes to like a hotel somewhere and Jessica Chastain shows up.
Yeah, and this is where they explain
New York City, baby, in the 90s.
New York in the 90s. Julie looks like New York any day. Could be any time. We don't even get a gratuitous shot of the Twin Towers. I'm just saying they didn't play with time at all. Like, I'm not saying I want
gratuitous
that.
Shot.
Like, for the
fans.
For the fans. Just prove to me that this is not the present day.
Prove to me that this is not Montreal. Like, come on.
Right. Yes. There was literally
or Vancouver or wherever. Yeah.
I remember when there was a double-decker bus in New York, and I'm like, where the fuck are we?
Yeah.
They didn't try at all. Okay, so Jessica Chastain, she explains the history of these aliens and how they're searching for the Phoenix Force, which I guess it's just a force that just wants to destroy. Like, that's the other thing. What does the Phoenix want? I think what the animated series did that was really cool in the Dark Phoenix saga, they explained how the Phoenix Force was like, oh yeah, I wanted to protect this giant crystal, sure. But once that was done, she was like, ooh, but I like being in Jean Grey because she's a human and she has so many emotions that I can tap into for the first time. So she was like, they didn't say this because it's a kid show, but she was like, man, she feels horny for Cyclops and Wolverine. I like feeling this way. I like feeling this thrill. And so it was like she was fighting to stay in Jean's body. And so the X-Men were like, get out of our friend. And that would have been really cool if they gave like the Phoenix Force a sentient personality.
Yeah.
Instead of just like this generic entity.
This cloud. Yeah.
It's just a cloud.
It's a cloud. It destroyed the Dabari's planet. They want to harness it and like get a new planet, basically.
Yes. Because there was that scene where she was showing her like how it can make vegetation grow and everything.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. I would have done that, fix climate change.
Yeah, that's what you would have done with the Phoenix Force.
I would have the Amazon rainforest back. Yeah,
I would have
old
made
growth forests in California. Back.
I would have made Magneto and Professor X a couple.
I would have made them kiss.
I would have made them kiss. Magneto. My notes say Magneto assassination. Oh, this is where Magneto. Oh, I'm so sorry. Beast has now come to Genosha, and he's like, guess who's dead? He's like, girl, that.
Our mutual lover.
Hey, Magneto, we only have one thing in common. That blue woman. And she's dead. Let's team up and kill this young lady.
I mean, boys being boys, if I ever saw.
Boys being boys. It's just like, why? If you just explain, I don't know. If someone explained this to me, I just feel like, man, Jean must be really sick. She must clearly be possessed. Like, we live in a world where people get possessed and things take over their bodies, but they're just like, she has to die. And
especially Beast being a scientist who did the test. You're right. They really don't associate it with the fact that there must be something inside her that is making this stuff happen.
Yeah. Or they're rationalizing like, we can't get it out of her. We haven't tried, but we just have to kill her. We have to put her down now.
Shoot a spike into her face.
Oh my God. That spike. Any highlights from this action sequence where it's like Magneto, Beast, and his crew versus Storm, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Professor X.
Very good pairings. Little battles here and there. We got the guy with the hair that would like whip people.
Yeah. Which okay, I don't know. I sure hope a black person came up with that. It feels weird to me if.
Okay, so who's our director? Simon Kinberg, first time feature director, many times writer. It was shot so horribly. Like, it's so confusing. It's so disorienting the way he would cut from like fight to fight to fight until I would say when Magneto pulls the train out of the ground. Then I was like, okay, this is something I maybe haven't seen before. It's a little impressive. But up until that, I had no idea what was going on. It was dark. It was like
very dark. And I guess don't forget Storm.
The military's there.
Yeah. So Magneto tries to kill Jean. It doesn't work. And then he gets smacked back on his ass. And that's pretty much the end of the kill Jean plot there. Because
she makes Professor X walk up the stairs in the creepiest, like,
horrific.
Ever. Yeah.
Just
she's like, behold my power.
You're now Pinocchio.
She's pretty powerful. I think she could just make his legs move normally. She'd have to like twist his ankle up every step.
I just wish she made him do the bye 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 dance from NSYNC.
Well, okay, so what I'm trying to think, it's 92. Do we know about Wannabe yet? Is it Spice Girls era?
We don't know about Wannabe. We don't know about NSYNC. Like, this is before Spice Girls and boy
bands. Yeah.
This is like grunge. We're still in Seattle was
Madonna era.
Yeah, I think we would have been voguing by this point. She could have made him Vogue. That would be fun.
Vogue. Come on, we're in New York in the 90s. Come on.
Could you imagine like a quick moment where Jean and Jessica Chastain do like, let's get to it. Strike a pose. There's nothing to it. Like, just it becomes the Vogue music video, very black and white.
Yeah, this is how you know not a single gay person worked on this movie.
Oh, I know no one gay worked on this movie. I felt it. I felt the dry hetero-ness strongly.
You're right. So we witness the full powers. Jean is
walk
like,
to
I'm
me.
feeling the powers. And then train scene, right? Oh, yeah, the mutants get captured.
They get captured. I think this is where, and then Jessica Chastain tries to steal the power from Jean, and she's like, "I'll be the Phoenix."
Yes. And someone, Cyclops, right? He jumps into the room, shoots Jessica Chastain in the face,
Mhm.
and then the military comes in.
Yes. Military comes in, and then they put those little chokers on the X-Men.
Yeah, so our military now can just shoot little non-mutant things at people. This is the 90s.
It's the 90s, but I think, it's a world where Apocalypse, destroyed most of the planet, which we don't talk about, but I assume
Of course not.
technology has changed since then.
Do you think Vogue still happened after Apocalypse?
I don't, oh my God, that's what we need to know. Did Vogue happen?
Yeah.
Did they know about Vogue?
I mean, really, really missed opportunity.
Because Dave, if there's no Vogue, there's no Beyonce remix of Break My Soul. I don't want to live in that world.
Harrowing, yeah.
Okay, I think we go right into the train heist at this point.
Jessica Chastain is standing on a cliff 400 miles away, waiting.
Always waiting. All her little creepy alien buddies are also hopping on. Yeah. And basically, the military gets entirely wiped out except for one person who's like, well, got to free the X-Men. And he frees all the mutants. And then they destroy, they slay, as they are wont to do.
To Charles's point, like he was like, we're just one slip up away from them seeing us as monsters. I mean, they did. They captured them, and we're like, the one guy's like, you guys were my kid's hero. He says it to what's his name? One of the blue ones.
Nightcrawler or Beast?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
He's like, you were my kid's hero. You saved all those astronauts a mere 4 days ago.
And now you're criminals.
Yeah.
God. Did that guy die? And is that why Nightcrawler went like crazy ham in that one scene?
He did. Like, so I think it would maybe Jessica Chastain like threw something at him, and Nightcrawler teleported him away, but not fast enough. Like he still got stabbed or something. And now he's like, now I'm angry. It just goes off on everyone in his Nightcrawler way, in his Cody Smith McPhee way.
Yeah. That was amazing. Thank you for pointing that out. That Academy Award nominee, Cody Smith McPhee.
Yeah.
Someone gay.
Doing a German accent?
Yes.
What accent work in this?
That's what it should have been.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Talk to me. I feel like we didn't talk about Sophie Turner at all in X-Men Apocalypse, so I do apologize to the Turnheads. Talk to me about Sophie Turner's...
the Mrs. Joe Jonas fans.
Mrs. Joe Jonas, indeed. How was she in this movie for you? Did she work?
I think some British actors have a really easy time doing American accents, and some struggle. And I felt like the barrier for her was that she was focusing too much on the accent and not enough on the character. And so she's withholding a lot of like emotional journey, and we don't really get to follow what she's going through, really. Like I'm stuck in like, is she pronouncing these words right? In like, it's sort of the way Emma Watson, not to drag Emma Watson into this, our famous like bling ring moment, but like there is effort that it takes to do an American accent for some people. And it felt like that was what Sophie Turner was doing, is trying really hard to do that.
Yeah. It's hard for me with Sophie.
Sorry, you go.
Thank you. It's hard for me with Sophie Turner because at the time, it's like, she's perfect casting look wise. It's like this makes sense as a young Jean Grey. But I don't know. I feel I'm safe enough from Game of Thrones to finally say this. I don't know if I've ever liked anything she's done, but she's been involved in really good tentpole, like huge projects. She's a franchise queen, I would say.
I would say the highs of her in the later seasons of Game of Thrones are a credit to very decent writing for her character, not for the show as a whole. Mm-hmm. And that the things that she gets to do and say are like, they always are a slay. Like if she could just walk into a room in like a caped like crown thing and be like, I'm in the Game of Thrones now. Like that's eating to me. Mm-hmm. And she does that very well.
Your dogs will eat you and no one will care. Goodbye. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. That was our Sansa and we loved her.
That was her name. Sansa Stark. Yes. Stark. Now she's Jean Grey.
And 2 days later, she's playing Jean Grey. She's in Canada somewhere, desperately trying to pronounce, I don't know, X-Men correctly.
Yeah, it was her coffee cup left on the Game of Thrones set because she was in so much of a hurry to go to the X-Men set. She left it
Wow.
behind.
To blame an actor and not a set designer or a props master is insane.
Yeah, because I support the crew, Dave. I don't know about you, but I support people below the line.
To support the hardworking union people who work on our sets is to say that the actors should have also been doing their jobs, and I don't think that's the case.
Wow. Okay. And that's where we're gonna have a little impasse.
And that's our impasse here on our train scene.
Okay, so they fuck up the train, and then this is the end, right? The big final battle where like Jean still has a little bit of Phoenix left in her versus the little bit of Phoenix in Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, we get transported to a very Marvel final battle scene, which I would call burned rubbish. And that's like we're just in burned rubbish, and we're gonna have this final battle here. Yeah, I'm like, okay, here we go. And then they're all just standing around her in a circle, and she's like, what does she say? She's like, you want this power? Have it, or something.
And she like Jessica Chastain is choking her, and then she grabs her wrist and she's like, oh, no, choke harder. Which, not my bag, not my vibe, but I know people who would like that, and I think there's a certain class of people that were like, oh, we love this choke scene.
It's everyone who wants Aubrey Plaza to run them over. Yeah, of course. It's everyone who wants Aubrey Plaza to run them over with a car.
It's everyone.
The Venn diagram.
And then what? They just explode in pink light? Is that what happens here?
Okay, so she sees Cyclops, and his hand starts like turning to dust. Very, I don't know if it's Endgame or one of those. And Jessica Chastain is like, see, you can't save them, or something. And she's like, watch me, and just flies up into space and explodes. And that's the end.
This girl is on fire.
Literally.
That's what should have played. That should have been the Neil drop.
She becomes a motivational speaker.
So, of course, in classic X-Men fashion, they named the school after her, which I don't know. That seems inappropriate to me. Of like, you know, I don't know if I
killed Raven.
She killed Raven. And also, like, if I had a student and I was sending them to this school, do I want to send my child to a school named after a student who went rogue and like it all went wrong? You know?
Yeah.
To me, Jean Grey is a failure of the Charles Xavier method of teaching.
School for gifted children. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's the worst case scenario of what can happen to your mutant child. So I don't know if I would name a school after her after a big mistake, but okay.
A big mistake. Huge, actually.
Huge. Dave Berenato, this final scene in all of X-Men takes place in Paris, somewhere you recently were, I believe.
My God. Yes.
When Magneto shows up with a chessboard and he wants to play chess with Charles, no helmet, so he knows Charles could read his mind. Like the level, like I want to talk about just like they're playing chess, like that's the scene. Okay. But like Magneto knows that Charles can read his mind, and Charles knows that Magneto knows he can read his mind, and they're going to play a game of chess, which is all about the mind. Like the level of queer trust that's there.
Yeah.
Not even queer trust.
The psychosexual mind games of this chess game. Wow.
Like that's beautiful.
That.
You know,
thank you for bringing that.
Oh yeah, like I know you can read my mind, but I'm going to trust that you're not going to, so we can play this game. But even if you do,
I'm okay with
I
know you're going to read my mind. I'm going to fake you out and trick you anyway. That's
okay.
Hot.
And we're on two different levels. Okay. And this, okay, I'm not going to say much.
That's the foreplay.
Okay. Yes.
I'm going to think the wrong moves. Come on, get into it.
This is where I flirt for pleasure and you flirt as an attack. And that is the difference between you and I.
That's everyone knows about me.
If Dave's flirting with you, it's an attack.
It's a conquest. I mean, come on.
Okay. But we can both admit that the scene is hot. Yes?
Extremely hot. And is it supposed to harken to like the Dark Knight Rises post scene where isn't that also Paris?
That is also Paris. Very similar, but like it's just harkening back because like in the original trilogy, they're always playing chess. These bitches, they always be playing chess.
Yeah, they love it.
They love it. We love it. But what
they love each other. They're sharing a studio apartment in Le Marais. Oh my God.
Le Marais. But you know what we love even more in this podcast, Dave Berenato? We love a fuck, marry, kill. It is time. The last fuck, marry, kill of the X-Men movies. And for X-Men Dark Phoenix, I think we have to talk about the Dark Phoenix herself, Jean Grey, Cyclops, her lover, and the woman who wants to take it all away, Jessica Chastain, whose character name I think is Vuk or Vuk, V-U-K.
Okay, so I did need clarification because the Jessica Chastain you're referring to is the alien, not the dinner party.
Not the woman who's only in less than 5 minutes of the film.
Less than 5 seconds.
Less than 5 seconds. We're talking about the alien, but in the form of Jessica Chastain.
That does change things for me.
I can't believe you needed that clarification. But
well, you just said Jessica Chastain. You didn't even say Vuk.
If I did say Vuk, would you have known who I meant? Don't do this to me. I can't believe you're picking a fight with me on the podcast. Okay. I will go first to give my guest Dave time to think since he has to rearrange everything.
And don't agree with mine.
Okay. I probably won't because I'm going to kill Vuk. I'm going to kill Jessica Chastain. I think she's weird. I think she's off-putting. I think
it's the eyebrows. It's 100% the eyebrows.
The eyebrows. I've also famously never been attracted to a blonde in my life. And I'm not starting with her. Also, she wants to kill Jean and take over the X-Men, or not even take
the whole planet, probably
the whole planet. She wants to get rid of the X-Men.
Thank God.
This is interesting. I think. Oh God, this is a hard one.
Yeah,
because I definitely want to fuck Cyclops, but I don't know if I want to marry Jean Grey. So now I'm like trapped. But what is marriage if not a trap?
Oh, goodness.
So you know what? No, I'm going to go with me. I'm going to fuck Jean Grey.
Okay.
The girl is unstable, but you know what? Who isn't these days? I think I'm gonna fuck her. I think it's gonna be a wild night. I think she's gonna move a lot of shit around during the act, and that could be really fun. We'll get a hotel room, so it's not like my stuff, even though my room is a mess. But yeah, I just kind of would be with her for a night and kind of see like, what can you do for me? Can you read minds of somebody so I can know how they really feel about me? That kind of thing. Just kind of
you
like,
want her as a fortune teller.
Yes. I just want a day with the Phoenix Force and I want to live.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to marry Scott Summers. I know no one likes Cyclops and no one likes Scott Summers, but I just love how supportive he is of her. And, like I said, I have my unhinged days too. I have my Phoenix days, and I need that tether. I need that person who's like always going to be in my corner. He always has her back. He's destructive just as her. And I think the shades are cool. And that's my take. Dave Berenato. How about for you?
Okay. I will marry Scott. I think he is a stand-up guy. I wish he was James Marsden, but he's not in this one.
His one flaw.
It literally is his one flaw because he's so supportive. I mean, you can't beat that. That's what you want in a man.
Yeah.
When we're all healed from our trauma, you want a supportive man. I'm gonna kill Jean Grey. I don't want this. Whatever this is going on.
Fucking Nicholas Stoltz over here, or what's his name?
What? Holt. Every 5 minutes, you're like, we'll get back to him. We'll get back to him.
We'll get back to him.
Pushing it off. I'm Nicholas Holt. Call me Nicholas Holt because I'm gonna kill Jean Grey.
Damn. Because you love Raven, you love Mystique, and you want justice.
That's true. I want justice for Jennifer Lawrence. And I think I have to fuck an alien. Come on. I can't deny that that's actually on my bucket list. So,
okay.
Alien in a human body.
Calm down.
Calm down. Everyone jumps on top of me. So, it's Jessica Chastain. Alien rights. It's Jessica Chastain. Come on, Academy Award winner. Is she the only Oscar in this film? Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence and Michael Fassbender was nominated for his role in 12 Years a Slave. Think about that.
I will. And Cody Smith-McPhee was nominated for some cowboy movie.
So there's actually a lot of Oscar tail in here.
I'm talking about my girls, J-Lo and Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain didn't have hers yet, though, when she shot this. So she's like getting ready.
Like, back off. They're nominees. Yeah. All right. So that's the fuck, marry, kill. Dave, thank you so much. Dark Phoenix. wild that this is the end. I've noticed this a lot. Like when I do these like franchise watches, the last one is usually the most pathetic and pitiful, and that's usually how it ends.
The Wikipedia, it's like a box office disaster, a critical disaster. Like it killed everyone. It was the apocalypse.
This was the apocalypse. I mean, it's such an uphill battle. This came out the same year as Avengers Endgame, which was like the biggest thing. Oh. Can you imagine? Like, it's Avengers Endgame and also X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about this one. It was like the same summer.
I feel like there had to be drama. There had to be rewrites. There's the Bryan Singer of it all. Like, this movie was a mess from the start.
A mess from the start. But what I will say to defend it, because two things could be true.
Yeah. Alexander Shipp.
Alexander Shipp. Don't forget, Storm was in this movie. But this is what the X-Men should be doing more so than the globalness of Apocalypse. Like, this is a issue that they should solve. It's one of their own. You know, it's a part of Jean's evolution of her mutation. You know,
her canon event.
Her canon event. Listen to this guy. You hearing this guy? Oh, he's seen Spider-Man. And it's, I don't know. It's also, for me, it's one of my favorite X-Men storylines of all time, the Dark Phoenix saga. I love
and
Betrayal.
They keep trying to do it. They're like, let's do it in Last Stand. Let's do it in Dark Phoenix. It's the same writers. They're like the Simon Kinberg guy. Like, he really wants this story made and he keeps failing. So third tries charm.
Third tries charm. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the Dark Phoenix saga and how it fails in films, please listen to our X-Men The Last Stand episode where I really popped off about that. But for now, I'm happy to say goodbye to the X-Men. Thank you for a fun summer. And thank you all for listening. If you listen to all 9 episodes, gosh, I think you have as much free time as me.
You're one of our X-women.
If you listen to all 9 episodes of this podcast of X-Men, you're an X-woman, and Mystique salutes you.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Berenato, what is going on with you? Where can people find you online? Do you have anything to promote beside Queerfully Departed besides that?
Yeah, I was going to say, follow Queerfully Departed on Instagram. We have our festival premieres coming up in the next few weeks. So very excited about that. It's a short queer rom-com, and you'll catch it in festivals this year.
Hell yeah. Hopefully I can make it. You can follow this podcast on Instagram at podcast616p3. That's podcast 616p3, and that P3 stands for Press Play Podcast, the podcasting network that truly didn't say I couldn't do an Summer of X, so I did. Producer Michael, if you want to hop on the mic real quick, what letter grade would you give this podcast?
I'll give you guys an A, solid A.
Solid A. And Michael, did you like Dark Phoenix?
A 0. 2 Fs.
Oh yeah, I would say an incomplete assignment. Well, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you, Dave Berenato, and thank you all for listening. And Jean Grey, wherever you are, I hope that big pink phoenix in the sky. Hopefully, we'll see you again someday. We're gonna take a break next month. I'm tired, so we'll be back closer to October. And if you believe it, I think we're gonna do Blade. I want vampires. I need Blade. We're going to get some Wesley Snipes up in here. So please, until then, please take care of yourself and remember that with great power comes even greater responsibility.